At Dunning Insane Asylum, authority, lack of care for the poor and mentally ill, corruption, and funds strongly affected residents at Dunning in the early 1900s. These issues caused for poor conditions, treatment, and quality of life. Dunning Insane Asylum set the tone for mental hospitals in Chicago, causing those same issues in modern time. Dunning was an insane asylum, located on the northwest side of Chicago in the neighborhood Dunning. Dunning was built in 1851. In 1912, Dunning was renamed Chicago State Hospital and torn down many years later to become Chicago Read Mental Health Center. Today, the neighborhood of Dunning is very normal, residential Chicago neighborhood. Dunning was a horrible place in the 1900s. At the time, the expression, "be good or I'll send you to Dunning," was frightening to children. Dunning had poor conditions because of overcrowding, funds, unqualified workers, and corruption. Dunning was said to be crawling with vermin. When 38,000 unmarked bodies were found where Dunning used to be located, this led everyone to the impression that Dunning had little care for the residents who lived and died there. In 1912, the last official time that Dunning was Dunning, William Howard Taft was the President of the United States. Charles S. Dennon was the Governor of Illinois in 1912, and Carter Harrison was the mayor at the time. The neighborhood of Dunning was still a very residential neighborhood at the time. Even though Dunning did affect the neighborhood, not all residents were aware that Dunning Insane Asylum even existed. Dunning was a silent place cut off from civilization. The Dunning Read Memorial Park is located very close to Read Health Center. Below these stones of remembrance lie the 38,000 unidentified bodies. As I walked around this park, it felt eerie, knowing how these people were treated while alive and how they were treated at death. In 1912, Dunning was renamed Chicago State Hospital and torn down many years later to become Chicago Read Mental Health Center. Today, the neighborhood of Dunning is very normal, residential Chicago neighborhood. Dunning was a horrible place in the 1900s. At the time, the expression, "be good or I'll send you to Dunning," was frightening to children. Dunning had poor conditions because of overcrowding, funds, unqualified workers, and corruption. Dunning was said to be crawling with vermin. When 38,000 unmarked graves were found, where Dunning used to be located, this led everyone to the impression that Dunning had little care for the residents who lived and died there. Dunning at the time started to give a very distorted image of mentally ill in the 1900s, as if it was a horrifying concept and no one should care about them. A place that is treating people should not be seen as scary, it should be seen as inviting and helpful. A mental health center does still exist from the roots of Dunning. Read Mental Health Center. Read is located about a minute away from Dunning Memorial Park, where Dunning was located. Dunning closed in 1912, June 30th, then the next day reopened as Chicago State Hospital. Dunning is still important for many reasons, one being that 38,000 bodies were found buried very close to Dunning during construction. Many were residents of Dunning. That is a lot of unidentified bodies. This is a part of why Dunning Read Memorial Park was created, to remember those dead people. Dunning is also important because it helps us see the history of Read.